Recording in
It's only
progress.
RCTV, so, okay, here we go. Hello, this is Chuck Tironi, Reading's Conservation Administrator. This meeting is being conducted in person and remote format consistent with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, which further extends certain provisions of COVID-19 measures regarding remote participation in a public meeting until March 31st, 2025. Please note, not all items listed may be in fact discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. This agenda includes those matters which can be reasonably anticipated to be discussed at tonight's meeting. Please note, this meeting is being recorded and all material are available at the following link, which I'll provide as soon as I'm finished. Brian Bowe, the Conservation Commission Chair, will facilitate this meeting. Please note that there will be public comment period at the end of each hearing. Each vote taken during tonight's meeting. Walter's here. Each vote during the course of tonight's meeting will have a public comment period. And each vote taken during tonight's meeting will also have a roll call vote. We'll begin with roll call attendance. Brian, can you please go over tonight's agenda and take the commission's attendance?
Okay, call to order at 7:02. First, go over the agenda. It's a light one tonight. First, we'll be starting with a discussion with the town clerk with ticketing procedures that we can use in the future. Then we move to a continuation hearing for Zero Cedar Swamp. And that is it for our hearings tonight. And then we get to old new business, starting with violation notices. And then it's discussion items, the land use summit, Let Sums and Morgan rules, conservation DPW monthly coordination meeting, administrators report, and then approval of any minutes. And with that, we'll now set up the order for the roll call votes. Walter, can we start with you?
Sure. Good evening. Walter Talbot, Commissioner present.
Chirag,
Chirag Stalikar, member present.
Tony,
Tony Rodolakis, member present.
Martha,
Martha Moore, Vice Chair present.
Brian Bowe, Chair present. Okay, without further ado, if we can jump to Laura, Town Clerk, to talk to us about ticketing procedures. And again, thank you for coming down and doing this to educate us people.
Happy to. So up on the screen shows a copy of the ticket, and I'm assuming you want to just talk a little bit about filling this out and what your procedures would be. This ticket is actually designed for all town bylaw violations and regulations. So there might be some parts on here that may not necessarily pertain to you. The date that you're issuing the ticket, and when you issue this, you're stating that you took, that you witnessed the violation. So it says date of notice. That's the date that you witnessed the violation. Who you're issuing it to is the name of the offender. The address is the address of which that person lives at. And city, state, and zip, and then date of birth. If you don't get that information, because a lot of people may not be willing to give it to you, that's fine. You can just leave that information blank. The part that you do need though is the name. And then you're going to put where it says you have been observed violating specific bylaw or regulation. And that's where you're going to put the Conservation Commission regulation that you've put in place for example, no dogs in Bear Meadow. So you have to actually specifically put the regulation and where it falls under.
And we'll be using Article 97.
Of the regulation, Article 97 of Conservation Commission's regulations.
State regulation, yeah.
State regulations, okay. So you want to make sure you identify that, where it says the specific bylaw or regulation. The I Act consulting violation Basically, what did you witness? The date and the time is important that you witnessed it. And the place of violation, which in this case would most likely be Bear Meadow. Your signature and then the signature of the offender. Now, if you can't get their signature because they refuse to sign it, that's fine. Just underneath it, it says unable to obtain signature of offender. You're just gonna check that. Cause some may refuse to sign it
How
for you.
about the names? I'm not interested for this refuse to give you their name.
Then there's no way to enforce it.
Right.
And, you know, unless you can do some investigating and try to figure it out, but
Okay.
Is it possible, if we had to, could I anticipate that issue also, at least in some cases, to follow them to a car and take a license plate?
that would be between you and the police. I'm willing to bet that the police are not gonna be very cooperative in providing information from running a license plate unless there's a law broken, not a regulation. You'd have to talk to the police chief on that one. He may be willing to work with you, but I don't know. The fine for this offense, is there a fine that was put in place in the regulation?
$100.
Okay, so you're gonna make sure that you list that $100. And then at that point you stop. There's nothing more that you're gonna put in. Yep.
Do we have to fine them the full $100? Or I don't even know if you know, could we say it was $50 or we decide a different amount?
So that totally depends on how the article is written in the state law.
Okay, we should check into that. I think it does give some flexibility, but we could check into that.
We should check, because I didn't think it did, but.
Yeah.
But I would say if we're finding people, we certainly need to be consistent. We can't fine my friend 50 and my enemy 100.
That's extremely important. It'll come back if you're not consistent. And the thing that might be a little bit difficult there is you need to be consistent amongst each other, you know, amongst the whole commission. You know, not just one member issuing 50 and another member issuing 75.
I take that back. It's $100 is fine. Yeah,
And, you know,
consistent.
it may be too, you'd have to go back and read the article. It may, in a lot of times with a lot of these types of fines that are issued, it gives you a little bit of leeway to say that the first fine is 50 and then the second fine is 100. You might want to take a look at that and see if you have that kind of leeway. But whatever you decide as a commission, you definitely want to be consistent.
Do we have leeway to have the first time we meet somebody to give them a warning, a verbal warning? Or do we have to do the ticket?
It's my understanding that that would be up to you as a commission, but again, being consistent.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could say that the first one could be a verbal. The issue with that is you're gonna have to be very good at communicating with each other.
Mhm.
You know, I just issued so-and-so a verbal warning, the next one is a ticket.
One other question springs to mind, which is in the beginning, you were saying, not everything pertains to us. So how do we know which does and which doesn't, besides the things you actually spoke to directly?
So the one that says act constituting the violation, that I'm not quite sure would pertain to you. The other part is at the very bottom of the ticket, it says that you have the following options with regard to disposition of this matter. One is that you may elect to pay the above fine either by appearing in person during normal hours before the town clerk. So everything, all these fines would go through us. And then the second is that you can contest the matter with Woburn District Court. I'm not real sure that this is something that can be contested through Woburn District Court. I do know that when we issue these tickets for dog violations, if somebody tries to contest it through the court tosses it. They don't want to take the time to deal with unlicensed dogs. Woburn District Court is the only court in the state that does that. So, I'm not sure how they're gonna handle it if, for something like dogs in Bear Meadow. That's the part that I really question. And then at the very bottom is where the person, the offender would be signing the ticket once they submit it to me for payment. So what happens, this is a 3-part form. After you issue the ticket, part 1, the white goes to the offender. The yellow goes to the town clerk's office. And then the cardboard copy, the bottom one, you keep. This is something that you're gonna be keeping, you're gonna have to keep track of every one that you issue. Now, we at the clerk's office keep track of everyone that is submitted to us, and we keep track of whether or not they're paid. We do not actively let you know of which ones are not paid or paid. We do have the ability to, though, to answer your question if you ask who hasn't paid their fine.
Is there some automatic follow-up if somebody hasn't paid?
Not from our department.
Any department?
So some of them, it depends on the department itself, like the Board of Health follows up with anything that's not paid. The police department follows up with any of the tickets that they issue that we're responsible for. So anything that's issued by the police department of any type of bylaw or regulation also goes through us. If it's anything to do with traffic, that goes through the state. So, but they follow up on those, and I get calls from them saying who's paid and who hasn't. But we don't have a mechanism in place at the moment to automatically let you know who's paid and who hasn't.
But if we kept running into the same person in Bear Meadow and giving them another ticket, a week later, another ticket, a week later, another ticket, and we'd say, this person doesn't seem to be getting the message, and we contacted you, you'd be able to tell us, yeah, they have 5 outstanding tickets at this
Correct.
point.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
okay.
is it a difficult question? In the case of someone who doesn't give us their name, what are your thoughts on taking a picture of them?
Be careful with that, but you legally have a right to. But I mean, as a citizen, anybody is open to having their picture taken. You can videotape, but you cannot record volume. Like I said,
Sorry,
I'd be
can you say
careful
that
with
again? What
that.
does that mean? You can videotape but not record?
Volume,
What? Oh, gotcha, it's like
Speech.
sound. Got it.
Yeah. sound.
Unless you have. Got it.
I mean, that's in Massachusetts law.
Yeah.
But
I mean, obviously, we hope none of these extremes are required, but
It's someone that you recognize, and you know who they are. They still need to provide identification.
that's up to you. You're the one issuing the ticket. So if you feel comfortable and confident that you know who it is, that's up to you. I can tell you that you're gonna get a problem. Just from knowing how people are when I issue tickets for dogs,
we're gonna
for not licensing them.
get a problem just giving a ticket period, no particular problem you're talking about here.
I'm sorry?
So you said we're gonna get a problem. Is that just in general? Or in a situation Tony was just asking about, if I know who it is, I can fill in their name.
So, the way that in my experience, the town clerk's office is responsible for licensing of dogs. If a dog is not licensed by March 31st, on April 1st, we put a late fee in place. On May 1st, we issue tickets, which is a $50 fine. When people receive these tickets, they get very defensive and very upset with the fact that they had a ticket issued. So I can't see them being any different with this. That's my point.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Yeah.
So, just one other quick comment. You are legally responsible for these. You are signing these out. When you're done, if you are no longer on the commission and no longer issuing tickets, you need to turn them into the clerk's office. if you issue one, you need to make sure that you get the yellow copy to us as ASAP. Because if you hold on to it for a couple of days and then they come in to pay it and we don't have it, we send them away and you have no recourse after that. Okay? So do you want to issue them now?
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're gonna do is just take a book. You're gonna find the first one in this column here.
Mhm.
Right there.
Mhm.
So you're just gonna put in your first name, last name, department, which you'll put Conservation Commission, and then your signature.
Okay, and I borrow an actual pen.
So Walter could get his book of tickets when he comes into the town hall sometime and go to the
Yes.
town clerk's office to ask.
Yep.
That's hand.
Yep.
Walter, while we're doing this, you have your hand up?
I do. Hi, Laura. We've not met, but I thank you very much for your service to the town. My question is, are these tickets individually numbered?
Yes.
Okay, so they can be traced. Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, on the screen, Walter, in red, you'll see number and then a couple of hash marks. That's that's where the number is.
Here's one, matches a number. Yeah.
Yeah, so Walter, just come by anytime when the town clerk's office is open. And let them know that, and I'll tell my staff so they're prepared. And let them know that you're with Conservation Commission.
Thank you. I'll do that.
Is there a reason we have to do this serially, or can you pass more books?
Well, because there's only one paper to fill out.
Fair enough.
There's the paper. And you can see if you can make one of these books match a line on that sheet.
So while you're doing that, is there any questions?
Nope, I think I would choose to wear my conservation vest if I'm gonna be trying to offer people tickets. Make me look a little more official.
Wise.
So you said that the first copy is for the violator. If they refuse to take it, do we just keep that also or turn that in to you?
If you turn it into me, I'm just gonna get rid of it. So I would suggest you hang on to it. So that way you can keep track of who doesn't have a copy of it. I just need the yellow one so that we can make sure that we have proof that one ticket was issued and two that they paid it or.
Okay. Walter, why don't you just go ahead? Brian's filling out the form.
Finished.
Yeah, I don't want to sound power hungry, but do these entitle us to give tickets for other reasons?
Even.
I mean, for example, if I'm in the town forest and somebody has 4 dogs,
I would say we should just.
This is just Bear Meadow, yeah.
Our conservation land, and for us, that's just Bear Meadow. Do we have any dog restrictions other than off leash?
gotcha, I'm on board. Good.
Yeah.
Are we good?
Thank you.
Gonna fill 102,
Want one?
join the pack.
Good. Spreads the blame. How often do you have those dog hearings?
Sorry, how often do we what?
Have dog hearings?
Here?
Hearings.
Dog hearings.
Oh,
Is that a frequent?
for some reason, I'm having a hard time hearing tonight.
What?
I'm and the last one we had was in 2012,
Okay.
Wow.
and I've been here 15 years and that was the first one. So this is the second since I've been here.
Okay.
Not very often at all.
So you're an expert.
What's that?
So you're an expert.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't even know. You're so right.
Okay.
Super expert.
Did you find the right row to put your number in there?
Yeah, I did. Being last has its advantages.
All right. As always, anytime you have any questions, comments, concerns, please stop by. Give us a call. All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
y'all have a great night.
You too.
All right.
Okay, so that brings us to Zero Cedar Swamp. The applicant has asked for continuation to October 23rd.
Excuse me,
Yes, well,
since we're still on the tickets, are we dividing up any responsibility to certain days, certain times, if somebody's there, or is it just when we go there, it may happen?
so I would say when we go there, it may happen because the other unknown is which way you go in. And so I think that's a lot to coordinate a number of volunteers. So just if you're gonna walk in there,
Yeah.
throw in your back pocket and
Yeah, I think the plan, my plan, is that we're not policing the area. We can use that term. If you happen to be in there and you see someone, and, you know, it's time for a warning. I've been doing that. I go to the Trails Committee meetings. They're at, Katera. And I get there about an hour early because that's exactly when town hall closes. And I talk to everybody who's walking in and walking out. I've been doing that for a couple of weeks now. If I recognize them as someone who keeps doing it, I could, you know, give them a ticket at this point. And that's how I would approach the situation, you know.
and from my own perspective, I plan on going in different entrances. Partly for my own reasons and partly because we know different entrances are being used. I do hope that having some attention to this in the early days will have an effect, and we won't have to be doing this on a frequent basis going forward. Okay,
I don't want to appear to be hunting, but I was just curious if there are any specific times or days where we may encounter more problems and therefore we should be more alert.
I had a comment from someone that Franklin Street Cemetery is an entrance where everyone is using early in the morning. So I went there one morning early and I only saw one gentleman walking a dog and came up to my truck. I don't think I'm well known, but he came up to my truck and turned around and walked back out of the cemetery. So,
so to answer your question more broadly, people tend to walk their dogs mostly in the morning or in the evening. There's some traffic throughout the day, but the early morning and after 4 o'clock are the most popular times to go. Okay,
I'm good.
anything else on that, or can we proceed back to Zero Cedar?
Can go back to zero.
Okay, so we're looking for a vote to continue this to October 23rd. Can I have a motion to that effect?
And move that we continue the hearing for Zero Cedar Swamp to October 23rd.
This is Tony, I second.
Walt Talbot's in favor.
Gerard Stilicho in favor.
Tony Rodolakis in favor.
Martha Moore in favor?
Brian Bowe in favor.
Is there a hockey game tonight? Football game? Anything people want to get out in time for? You might be out by 8 o'clock.
Okay, time will tell. Okay, that brings us to old new business, violation notices. There's
Have we heard anything from 445 Pearl Street?
no, and we don't expect to yet. We gave them another meeting, correct?
Okay,
So, no,
all right.
and I haven't been by any particular reason. So I think that was all we had to discuss there. So then we get to discussion items. The first item is the land use summit. scheduled here for October 19th. Chuck has an update to that.
Yeah, the land use summit's been canceled. It seemed to be one member from the Trails Committee going. Bill Sullivan was the only one going from the Town Forest Committee, and he could only make it for an hour. And I'm not sure how many conservation members were going, but it wasn't a full house.
Turnout, no.
I think it's something that, should be part of a yearly conference, especially if you want to know these other committees. Although it seems like we have been working together a lot better than we have in the past. Me and Martha started going to the Town Forest Committee meetings several years ago. I still go, Walter goes. I'm the liaison now for the Trails Committee. Ever since Kim Honenschlager left the town. So things have helped, but it would be great to meet, to talk about things. I told Bill Sullivan it's too bad because he needed to gain support for his, not that he could discuss it in any way because it's coming in front of the commission, but he needed to gain support with some of the speakers that we had for his forest cutting plan. And it would have been a great opportunity, and then to promote some of the events that they do, which they seem to do every year. So this is not a conservation item. This was a kind of a Chuck item, but again, I think it's too bad that we didn't continue it. It may come up again, but so far, no. It's been canceled.
I will say though, in section 8C, which is the clause that establishes conservation commissions, one of the responsibilities, one of the authorities we have is to coordinate among like-minded groups in the town. And I certainly consider Trails, Town Forest, Climate Advisory as like-minded.
Climate Advisory never got back to me.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'll have to mention that when he comes by for support on his townwide tree
Put a
program.
bug in somebody's ear. Anyway, so we actually have a reason to be doing it above and beyond because Chuck thinks it's a good idea. So that's,
We'll see if it can happen again the beginning of the year. Maybe, yeah, we'll see. When is town meeting?
November 12th or 14th or something like
Yeah, so it's
that.
in November, so.
so without putting people on the spot, was it, I know people have busy Saturdays and what have you. Was Saturday the biggest problem? Was it because it's a sports season and that may change in a different time of year? I don't know what sports your kids play. Do they play?
Fall and spring.
Okay. And what about your situation?
Saturdays are generally difficult.
Difficult?
Yeah,
Okay. Walter, what about you? I know you were out of town for this one or something, right? We're going to be out of town. So is there a problem with Saturdays in general or?
No, I'm usually around on a weekend, but this particular one, we have friends, we're gonna meet who are from Dallas. And we're going to Boston and spend the day with them.
No, I know you're exaggerating. You have no friends.
You want to get my opinion since we're talking candidly about this?
Sure.
I sent an email out to the chairs and asked them to do this exact survey, which Brian just went through. I suspect it never happened. And then to not only find out when people were available, but to find out what date most of the people on their committee was available. And it seemed like some of them were like, oh, I checked again and only one person was available. But that was, I was trying to team up with the chairs. I was trying to only talk to the chairs. And that didn't happen. And I think I would say that I need to get more buy-in from each chair to, poll their committee and to find out what date works and to push this to say, hey, it's needed. It's an important part of what we do each year.
Okay, so,
Brian did send an email to us. So
I'm not blaming Brian at all, other than
defending Brian, he did do
and-
exactly
I
what
don't
you
need to-
asked.
Brian.
no, but in all fairness, I mean, I sent an email. It wasn't like I was pushing hard to say, well, could you be there at 3 or something? I wasn't twisting arms, so that's coming in the beginning of the year, but,
You want everyone there. I think it's the
as
best.
possible.
And we were gonna have Andrew McNichol, who's Community Development Director, and a select board member. And I just stopped just before I sent out my email to the select board and I had talked to a couple of them personally and they helped me narrow it down to who could make it. But then I wanted to check one more time, and that's when I found out there was really, I mean, they would have shown up and there would have been 4 people there.
Yeah.
And it's their Saturday also.
Just see Walter's.
Yeah.
Walter's got his hand up.
Walter,
Yeah, I'd like to make a generic, unscientific comment. I've only been involved with volunteer work here for the last couple of years, my wife as well. It just seems that any event that occurs on the weekend, the committees, the commissions, whatever, don't have the availability to sit at the town fair or do this or do that. If we're gonna get together, it seems the best times, unfortunately, are weeknights. That's my opinion, unscientific reaction.
what do you guys think about that?
I would think so.
Weekends are even, well, weeknights are worse for me than weekends.
I think I will volunteer to make a Google poll and put a variety of dates down and see if we can send it out to all the groups and see whether we can come up with something that has at least a few
Okay,
members
so,
of each
so
group.
targeting around mid-January, give or take, or broader than that?
I could target mid-January if that's what you're looking for.
What Chuck suggested, next year, early next
Yeah.
year, that, we don't want to do it right after the turn of the year.
The only reason to do it this year would be to help Bill Sullivan out with his warrant article. And to have that, because it's not just it's just not the committees. It's open to any town resident also.
Well, the last time we got
So
one,
you'd want to have that before the November 14th town.
No,
meeting.
I'm okay whenever it happens.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, there's another thing to think about. I have to go back to my desk for a second and grab a piece of paper. Do you want to continue this? And I can take off now for a second?
yeah, sure, go ahead. So Martha will send something out. And we'll look for something, at least first blush, somewhere around mid-January. On the weekend, on Saturday, well, on the weekend, I don't know which is better.
I'll do some of everything.
Yeah.
I'll do some
we'll
weekdays,
just-
do some weeknights, and I'll do some weekends.
If
and we'll
nothing
see
else,
if
being a
anything
few months in
comes
advance,
out.
will allow it to essentially act as a save the date. Which might make things better. Because it would have been embarrassing to have celebrities show up and have no audience showing up. And by the way, I will be asking people if they have any ideas of what we as a commission should be presenting. The way it was going to be set up is each group was going to have 20 minutes between a presentation and then conversation, questions and answers. So if you have any thoughts on the kind of things that we want to present to different like-minded groups, that would be a good idea, whether something to help coordinate things or some issue of particular interest that they may be able to help with or may have interest in. Again, we'll have time now to arrive at that, so I'll be making up something myself whole cloth.
And do we want to have this fully in person and not hybrid? Guess we can't be hybrid if we're at Matera Cabin.
And Matera does seem a good place to
Yeah.
meet. How many people were there last time?
We filled that
20
table.
something.
And
At least.
we had people around the table, we've had people on the
Like
sofas.
14, 15? Something
More
like
than
that,
that,
more than that?
close to 18, 20 maybe.
Yeah, okay,
So, I don't know how we got that date to work, but we did.
yeah, maybe it was first time or not, but,
And I think on that date, we picked October 19th as our next time we get together.
I know we picked at least around there. I don't remember
Yeah.
if we picked the exact date, but.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could, answer Martha's poll when it comes out and any ideas that you have, by all means, forward them. Okay. So next item, Olet Sums and Morgan rules suggested by MSM staff discussion.
Yeah, so we have, so the Andrew McNichol and Alex Rozicki, two staff people suggested some rules that we change for Millet, Psalms and Morgan. Of course, we can't just do it here tonight. So I thought we would just review our rules and go over the rules that they want. They wanted at Millet, Psalms and Morgan. So the rules seem to be, pretty obvious, but let's see where this goes. So the first thing I want to do is get back to the screen. I want to go over the rules and regulations first. I just want to talk about the new ones.
Talk about the new ones. I think people will remember to some extent the ones we have in place already.
All right, so here we go. Where are we at? So some new rules for Millet, Psalms and Morgan. No skating. Those ponds are probably going to stay pretty warm. There's going to always be a flow of water just underneath the ice. And if people think that the ice is safe and walk out there in the wintertime, they're going to fall in and there could be a problem. So thinking about this, it could be a rule, or the Conservation Commission could just get some signs and put them around the ponds. So right now, I think there's some money left, and not only do I think, I know there's some money left, and we could get the signs not coming out of our budget, but coming out of the grant that we got for this project. But that's just one to think about.
So as far as that goes, it would seem to me that it's a two-pronged reason for that proposed rule. One is actual safety of individuals, and one is liability for the town/Conservation Commission. So I would think adding the rule, but also posting signs, it probably covers both of those
Yeah,
more completely.
I think so.
Would it say something like keep off the ice? And that would also apply to pets and people who are chasing their pets onto the ice to rescue their pets.
Dogs shouldn't be in the ponds.
Yeah,
So we put plugs in the bottom of the pond, 10,000 plugs. What the ducks, swans, and other flying varmints didn't eat are growing in. So yeah, it would be nice to see those get vegetated. I mean, it's a very sensitive time right now. I mean, they can mess up everything. There's a lot of mud exposed if dogs start going in there.
So keep off the ice.
Yeah, it could be a problem.
Because that way it's people just walking as well as skating, either way they're at risk. So I would say keep off the ice is probably preferable.
No swimming is the next one. Makes sense to us because we understand that these are stormwater features, but and they're not very deep. So again, another sign, maybe liability, and maybe just educating people.
Yeah, so I would say again, a rule change and a sign.
and I'm gonna say again, should we broaden that to stay like no swimming or wading? Because I could see people might think it would be fun to walk around in the mud and say, well, I'm not swimming, I'm just walking
Looking
around.
for tadpoles, so.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And we have 2 kiosks to post the rules on. We couldn't just do them here at Town Hall because the kiosks we received have no weather barrier. No window, there's no door, it's like something a scout made.
So I'm not gonna last long, in other words, the rules.
Well, no,
What's
It's good.
posted is good and permanent, but there's no place to put more signs, right?
we actually made it that big because for a lot of reasons, but we were really not, that wasn't what we wanted. We wanted something like the Trails Committee always gets, what you're gonna see at Lot 5, that kiosk comes in. And so, yeah, we'll just live with this for a while and then switch it out at some point. And let's see. My screen, oh, there we go. My screen froze again. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can get back to carry in, carry out. As you can see, it makes everybody who does that really happy.
Can we spell it right?
Is that Cary Grant?
Carry in, carry out. Yeah, that's Carrie.
Tim Wall's up there carrying his garbage out.
Just not going
Spell it
there.
right.
Thank you.
So, I think that's the last one.
So
But-
whose artwork is this?
The artwork was borrowed.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
So does this sort of that, because there's no trash cans or anything out there, so is this so that we don't have to put in trash cans?
so that's a great point. We had our favorite picker up guy come into town, John Oliver. He had some other complaints, but one of them he said was, we really wanna, and I've noticed it too, there's a lot of dog waste bags all over the place at both ends. And the DPW said on the opening that they weren't going to provide trash barrels. I think we need to bring that up again at the next meeting, and then if it's still no, just keep bringing it up the food chain until we get some trash barrels. It doesn't make any sense not to have them there.
Because I just have went there once, but you could see water bottles already.
Well, some of the water bottles are from the stormwater runoff. Some of it are from the land itself, because that area had been filled with a lot of trash.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of-
I haven't seen anything new that looked like it was
Okay.
deposited recently.
Yeah, but when we were.
Could have been one off, yeah.
When we were at the grand opening, one of the, I think it was a Mystic River watershed person, stepped down the slope and picked a glass bottle half full of water off the surface of the pond where it had floated down. But then there was no place for him to put this
Yeah.
yucky old glass bottle half full of water. It would have
Well,
been
so
nice to
at the
have a
very,
trash
at the
barrel.
very least, carry in, carry out is a good blanket statement. Now, whether you carry it as far as a trash can or further, that depends. I've heard arguments both ways, even when it came to town forest conversations about, does having the barrels encourage people to actually use them? Or does encourage them to bring more things in? And I don't know, I've never seen a scientific study of that, but
There's no barrel. There used to be a barrel, I believe, at Lob's Pond. Now hasn't been a barrel for a couple of years. I don't understand. I mean, it just makes so much sense. Is there a board that we go to? I mean, I should know, but I think it's just up to the DPW to put these in place.
yeah, I don't think they ever had a problem putting something in place. Their concern was always yet another place to add to their schedule to do pickup. Right? So it's not the barrel itself, it's
Yeah.
adding it to
What
a
they
growing list.
said was people were putting food waste in the barrel and then squirrels and stuff were messing up
Oh,
and throwing it
I see.
around before they picked it up. Someplace like Lobbs Pond Mill doesn't really get that much activity, so they wouldn't have to pick up the barrel that often and there'd be plenty of time for the,
Although
pizza
stranger you
boxes
say
to get
that,
tossed around.
because what I saw from when we placed our device there was a lot of people lunch there.
Oh,
A lot, it's relative term,
Yeah.
but that seemed to be constant traffic on most days.
okay.
Could I
And
also, so,
I'm just gonna say, maybe that's why they don't want people putting their lunch trash in that barrel.
Could be.
could I also propose no fishing?
No fishing.
Well, you would think you wouldn't have to propose that, but it makes sense.
Okay, but we can talk, this, again, this is just kind of information session. And we can talk about the rules. We'd have to go through that process again about putting it in on the agenda as a rule change, discussing it. You know, there might be some other rules also that need to be discussed.
So let me ask this. No, I want to ask that.
I do want to bring up that we already have a rule that is in conservation land, the dogs need to be on leash and on the trail. So that assumes that the dogs are not going for a swim in the water either. And that's already covered by that rule, but I think just like there's watering hole number 1 and watering hole number 2 in the town forest, these street runoff water retention areas might be very tempting for dogs.
Mhm.
So I think it's important for that to be clear that the no wading and swimming applies to dogs and people.
I don't have a sense yet of how much water is going to be in them in the summertime.
And Walter has his hand up.
Walter, yeah, your hand is right in the glare from the light, so please go ahead.
I do well at glare. This whole project originally stemmed as an engineering project to prevent flooding, to get better drainage, et cetera. And now it's turning into a conservation project. If we're gonna have signs, by the way, I hate signs. If you wanna have signs, we should have 3 signs in each of the 3 entrances with a whole list of what they can't do. Having a sign next to the pond, "Don't go swimming," to me ruins the whole effect.
What?
Sure.
He did purchase those swans, so
That's right.
you should listen.
That's right. We should check. with-
We just need the rules posted at the kiosk. We could make some room, in those, luckily those kiosks are made out of wood, so we could just attach it to the 4x4.
So one thing I'd like to know though, from somebody, town council perhaps, is does posting them at the entrances cover us from a liability perspective? Or do you need to sign right at the water?
The conservation's not worried about liability. The town needs to be worried about liability, but I'll
I'm
run.
assuming that's part of the reason why Alex is suggesting it. Isn't that also because of liability? Is that?
He didn't mention it,
Okay,
but I think it does cover it.
because I agree with Walter in general, it's better to not, you know, cloudy up the view, but
Okay, if we're gonna make 8 o'clock, we've got 10 minutes.
okay.
Yeah,
So this is our first discussion of these rules. Do we need to announce it as a public hearing and have a second hearing so people know about it?
I'll put it on the next agenda, and
Even then, it sounds like this is gonna be a discussion with others anyway, so I don't think this is a vote on it kind of situation tonight.
this would be something that we would let people know when we were gonna vote.
Right, exactly.
Well, I'm just gonna suggest that we're getting a lot of positive feedback for this lovely Millette Psalms Morgan project. And it would be a good thing to put in the newspaper that we're going to be discussing safety rules at the Millet Psalms Morgan project, so that people who are concerned about safety rules know to come.
Makes sense. Okay, so we can put that aside for now. The next conservation DPW meeting is November 5th. Usual
Isn't
question,
that election day?
so that may be moved as well. But the one in October was already moved, because that's when we had the opening of,
It was canceled in that, so we wouldn't have them cancel this. I mean, there's a couple things we want to talk about.
so we would have it regardless of it being election day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
does that affect your availability?
I'm not working the election
Okay.
that, on that day, so I could zoom in, so I think that would be fine.
And coincidentally, I'm not working it either, so I could be there. I could zoom in. Okay, Chuck, administrators report.
Sure, so we finally, so lot 5 needed a set of stairs, and the DPW put them in over the last week. Jeff Cummings and myself came up with the design. A lot of it was, I guess the steps were made at the DPW yard. But the design out in the field, which had to happen because no one knew what we were to expect, was great. So they actually graded out some of the top, so there was less stairs needed, and it's flatter, and I don't think anyone's gonna have a problem. So I have a couple of pictures. This one's with the chair checking.
You can't believe how many times Mamie posed for that picture.
That's the chair checking the stairs out. They're really nice. No railing will go up because they're wide, and it seemed like no railing was needed. Railing, someone's convinced somebody of the railing, then it's really the town forest that would have to take something like that on. Also, as soon as they were done, Chris Cole reached out to me and said, "Who's paying for these?" So my reply was, "Well, yeah, we don't have a problem, but this is not conservation only situation. As a matter of fact, it's actually mostly town forest." And I said, "Have you asked the town forest committee?" And he said he would. So I think if the town forest pitches in, well, I'll bring this back to the Conservation Commission, but the Trails Committee already said no.
I do think it's worth mentioning at our next coordination meeting, not so much that we're being asked to pay, but the fact that they asked that question after the stairs have been built, rather than in any of the previous months and months where they've been discussed. So essentially, it's bait and switch, I guess, is the way to look at it. So I think that's worth bringing up, so we get on the same page, especially as far as future projects. But I think it makes sense for us to chip in something.
And are we talking about the cost of the supplies or also the cost of the time of the people who built them?
He only mentioned the stock.
Right, so the
So-
wood and the gravel and stuff like
So
that.
the newspaper notice to talk about rules at Millet, it's about $500. This is gonna be about, if all 3 committees chip in, is gonna be $500. If less, it's gonna be more. I don't think this would be the one that they would ask us to pay for. I said our budget's pretty low. We already have what we're gonna purchase this year already kind of set up. And we had talked about it for a year, and only now is it being discussed. I think that we should accommodate, let's see what the town forest does. And that would, in my opinion, would be best.
All right, I wasn't thinking of an official notice where you pay $500. I was thinking of sending a press release to announce something about the Millet Psalms Morgan property being open, and by the way, it's going to be on the agenda for the Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
Newspaper often has articles about what the select board talked about and what the FinCom talked about at their hearings. And those are not public notices that you pay money for. They're just news.
Great suggestion. I don't know if it meets the
Nobody
criteria
comes.
of what the town wants if we're putting a newspaper notice in.
Well, I
I
think
could check into that.
we still have to post it with all the restrictions associated with that.
I'll look into it before we just start guessing on what to
I'm
do.
just saying, a reporter comes to the select board meeting, but no reporter comes to our meeting. So it doesn't get reported in the newspaper what we talked about most of the time.
So before we leave this, I just want to say that I've heard it already. If anybody talks to you about these stairs being difficult for their dogs, like it is for my dog, off to the left where the hill slopes up, there's a leftover path from before that goes up the side of that hill. And it comes up to the top of the landing, if you will, from the side. So it's an easier approach for dogs who need an easier approach, in case anybody brings it up with you.
All right, and I'm gonna leave you with this one. So
Quick question on the slide, is the ground on either side, is that gonna be reseeded? It looks kind of bare and disturbed at the moment.
On the right in particular.
It's put in.
so what was it before? It was probably leaf litter, and we're getting into the leaf litter season. So it probably looks a lot different today than it did 2 weeks ago.
It was mostly pine needle and leaf litter. There was some grass at the top of the hill, which isn't there now because of the grading, but there wasn't a lot of vegetation on that slope.
Because from this picture, it looks like the soil isn't stabilized and there's an open cut on the left side, looking at the picture. I just want to make sure we're not going to get a lot of erosion as we head into a rainy fall.
So so in Article 14, this upcoming conservation, this upcoming town meeting, that it is going to be transferred to the Conservation Commission. But I think it's it's really thought of as the town forest. So I think I wasn't going to actively manage this place. And it's inside of the jurisdictional area. So I'll bring that up at the town forest meeting.
At the very least, when I use it, I can look for,
I mean, I'd love to actively manage it, but I think that since they have the entire town forest, it's one little spot, I think it makes sense to let them do it. All
I can bring it up somehow to the town forest.
right, so I'm gonna leave you with this. So as you can see from this picture, that old man walking down the stairs. I wanted to get a good picture of him. And there you go. He's giving me a hard time.
Tell me how much I was
It's
enjoying
get off
that.
the stairs. Jeez, God.
And you see them carrying a 70-year-old entrenching tool.
There's nobody holding his arm to get him down the stairs?
Well,
Well, I had to put the camera down to help him, but so I didn't get any of those shots.
it was there, but he photoshopped it out. Anyway,
Yeah.
a 70-year-old entrenching tool from my Boy Scout days, which we bent up, we meaning one person here.
Anyone sees this grumpy old man on the trail, be careful. Just gotta book it
What were
tickets.
you entrenching with it?
At the top of the landing where that slope comes up, that needed adjustments.
Yeah, so we put something like water bars in there, and the soil was too loose. And I'll look at it again on Friday, but it was, we did our best. Did our best.
I think it definitely came out better. Okay. Minutes for approval. Okay, first one, 8/28. Everybody read them.
I have,
One more thing, so don't close the meeting.
Okay,
I have,
It's in my edits.
Yeah,
Did not, or you
no, I haven't.
have not?
Walter, have you read 8/28?
Yes, I have. I've also submitted my comments.
Okay, so we can go ahead and vote then. We have a quorum. So,
I move that we accept the minutes for 8/28/24.
Tony, I second that.
Walter Talbot's in favor?
Chirag Talekar in favor.
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Just a note, I wasn't able to track changes or review anything. I had to manually make changes. That puts a little bit of effort on Chuck when he's incorporating the edits. I don't know.
I've never done track changes on them either. I tend to have an email. I just say, in this section, this line, change it to this, but
Chuck would rather the other,
yeah.
but I don't have the capability of doing that.
Happy you're reviewing. So you can get to track, I mean, really, people haven't been, I haven't got many comments. So it's fine. We'll do what we can.
If it gets worse, then we can reconsider that.
It's only 3 little changes, but
9/11, did anyone read those? Did those get finished? Can't
They
remember.
were not mailed out to
Okay.
us. 8/28 and 8/14 were mailed out.
Okay,
9/11 was the one that I did. I sent that out, right?
I looked today at the mail from Chuck about this meeting. And attached to that mail, I'm pretty sure was 8/14 and 8/28 and
Yeah,
nothing else.
it was just,
So I believe I sent them directly to you guys for review. I could be wrong in that regard.
no.
Did not dug back for
We still-
mail from you. I only dug back for mail from Chuck.
Okay.
So
I
I
did
did
the
not
same
read
thing.
the 9/11.
All right, so we went to 9/11 tonight, but
So 9/11 in this meeting at the next one. Who's gonna do the minutes for this meeting? It's a pretty short meeting.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna do it.
You're gonna do it? All right.
and I still have to send out the ones for 9/25.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't done that yet.
So can we vote on 8/14?
I think that one was done.
I think we already did 8/14.
Yeah. No, that's right.
Thought we did.
Oh, yep, we did. So why were they attached to this agenda again?
Just being cautious.
We were just checking to see if you're paying attention.
Yeah, you weren't at the review meeting, so.
I couldn't catch you on that. Sorry.
Okay, so that's it for minutes. So Chuck has one more thing before we adjourn.
I just wanted to let was there a vote on that? By the way, to accept the minutes?
On the one that we did,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So I just wanted to let you know that we have a firm under contract to test the soil at Simon's Way. They intend to be out there on October 23rd. And they should have the results in early November. Those results will be going right to the engineering department and select board for their review and myself. Hopefully, we're not finding any major problems because the town would own it at that. So, obviously, once we know what's in the soil, they can start doing some design. I didn't get to see this part of this last night's select board meeting, but also at Simon's Way, they're talking about, there's a skating rink and then there's a pretty rough parking area in back of that. They want to review that area for pickleball. That's outside of our jurisdiction, but I just thought you might like to know.
Have they settled on decision as to what's gonna go on the land and what came out of the committee?
Yeah, so I think several options came out of the committee. I don't know if they settled on anything.
Okay, so I remember the options because Andy talked about that.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they had gone further.
I think they're just looking for much. I did see, I did see a couple and I don't know what they're planning on, but it's certainly going to be a building and it's going to be some sport area with a path. And they had asked about having a path out into the wetlands. And I said, as long as it's done professionally, that they could probably present it with a notice of intent along with all the rest of it, because it's all going to be in the 100-foot buffer zone. So that's what I have.
Okay. Then I believe we are done for the evening. So we will make a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn the meeting at 8:05.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you, everybody.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Wasn't a record, but it was a good night.
Good night.
Night.